And we're live. This is the coaching chat with Marina and Caroline.
I'm Marina Baranowski of the Coaching Marina.
And I am Caroline Day with Safe Data Change. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, my friend. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Likewise. I'm so happy about this conversation today because it's one of my favorite things to do. Today, we're going to talk about mantras and affirmations. And I am a lover of mantras and affirmations. But before we dive into, what it is and what, like how we learned, I want to just share a little bit of how I just had to search in order for us to start this. So I searched myself first um, on what the difference is, and this is what I found, like just on the internet, was that mantras, the origin was an ancient spiritual tradition, especially Hinduism and Buddhism. And the purpose was in meditation, to use it in meditation, to use it in spiritual focus, and to connect with a higher self or with the higher consciousness. And mantra could be a word, a sound, or a phrase repeated to focus the mind and enter a meditative state. And then traditionally, mantras are believed to carry vibrational or spiritual power. Whereas affirmations is more of a modern psychology and self-development. It's reprogramming your beliefs. They're usually positive statements that you repeat to influence your subconscious beliefs. So, just in very simple terms, mantra is to calm the mind, and affirmation is to shape the mind. So,
Right.
what are your thoughts about mantras and affirmations, Marina?
That is pretty much my own take on it. This is when I first started learning about this. This is mantras is a word in Sanskrit, right? For man meaning mind and tras meaning tools. So it's a tool of the mind. And it was designed exactly for this. It is to steady the mind. So when I first learned of this, it was my first step in practicing to calm myself down because when you first start learning about this, you go, well, let's start affirmations. Let's start with, telling myself some things, and nothing felt good because I didn't calm myself down enough for me to actually take it in. So, learning mantras, and it could be a word, like you said, it could be a sound. The word Om is part of a mantra. So it doesn't have to necessarily be those sounds, but it could just be a humming sound. It could be just something that calms you down. And everyone is very different, but it triggers the brain to take it down a notch. And that was like so incredible in learning how to do that because my brain is always on the go. And you just need, even before meditation, it was something I learned even before meditation. So it was definitely it was instrumental. It was my stretching exercise for my brain before I could get into the meditation and then later affirmations.
That's beautiful. I love that for you. And I love that we're sharing this because both of us are not expert in either mantras or
Yeah,
affirmations. We've learned from other people. And the reason why we're talking about it because we see benefits
definitely.
to both of them, right? So for me, as a Catholic person, I was born and raised and learned how to pray. And so if I closed my eyes, it was really to have a connection with God, Jesus, right? In order to fulfill my desires, right? So I would be asking for things or be thankful for things through prayer.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really get to learn about meditation in any part of my adolescence. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I learned about affirmations truly, like that I practiced, not that I learned. People have talked about it around me, but it wasn't until in my 30s that I started to just pique interest in what, could be aside from prayers that would work for me. And a friend was doing a group meditation online in 2020 when we were all in lockdown. And they offered me the 21-day meditation with Deepak Chopra. So now Deepak Chopra is a renowned coach, author, and he's also a doctor. He doesn't practice anymore, obviously, but started as a doctor, and he decided to learn other things aside from the Western traditions and about meditations Indian. And so I did 21 days with him, and all of his 21 days of meditation is started with what he called a centering thought, which was an affirmation. It was something like, I am pure consciousness. And the meditation would be on the centering thought. And then he would start the meditation with a mantra. He would say a mantra. He would say what he means. I'll give you an example because I
Yeah.
wrote here. And you can find it online, by the way. It's on YouTube. If you look for meditation by Deepak Chopra, and I'll put the details here on YouTube so you can look for it. But for example, one of the meditations that is online and available to everyone is called Miraculous Journey Meditation by Deepak Chopra. And the centering thought or affirmation is, today I am open to the presence of miracles. And then he starts the meditation with a mantra, Sam Prati Ham, which means I open my awareness to the transformative power of the present moment. I am right awake to the miraculous possibilities in my present moment awareness. And then he says, when you are distracted by thoughts or sensations, go back to the mantra San Prati Hum and just breathe and pay attention to your breath. And basically, he invites us to remove our sensations, remove our thoughts, and just be in pure consciousness. And it's very hard for us human to do that, especially if we don't practice, because we're in this 3D world at all times, thinking at all times. We have already rehearsed and helped and taught our brain to be thinking at all times of different situations, different things that are happening on day to day. So to turn that off is extremely difficult unless you practice. And so the mantra helps you stay on track of not thinking about anything, not going into your body and feeling sensations, really removing ourselves from everything that is going on and focusing on just pure consciousness. And the way that he does it is with the mantra. And so I think that that's really beautiful. And that's how I happen to learn. So for me, I'm very thankful and grateful that I learned personally in the best way possible, in the most beautiful way possible.
That is very beautiful. And that there's within, and you said the word practice because it does take some practice to retrain your brain. And this is what mantras and affirmations actually are designed to do. It is to retrain your brain to either slow down or to have this different embodiment of something. And to start with that, where all you're doing is to learning how to calm yourself down, learning how to slow your breath, learning how to feel yourself completely, drawing attention to the parts of you that you don't normally do, is super important to start the retraining.
Yeah. So how did you start? Do you remember, or can you tell us just an example of when you started using affirmations?
And it was definitely into my 40s, where I tried to incorporate meditation into my life because I felt wildly always in motion and I needed to calm down somehow. I needed to find a way to do it. I ended up finding I ended up finding actually a bunch of people, Deepak Chopra being one of them, that is using this, to calm yourself. So I started very slowly and I found quite a few on Spotify. I found a few, even on YouTube where it was actually, I think I had a Gaia subscription at that point as well. So there's quite a few uh, practices there that I tried. And it really was, I found it difficult in the beginning for me to calm myself down enough or stop the chatter that was going on in my head to begin this practice. So I chose to first, before I even chose any affirmations at all, was to learn how to do that, how to calm myself down enough, even if it was for 10, 15 minutes to just be present, to be aware, to maybe, it first started with my just breathing, just being aware of the air going in my nose and out of my mouth. Like that was where I started. And then it slowly progressed to using mantras to calm and center. And then it graduated to affirmations, where at that point I could rewire some of the thought patterns. So that's where really the birth of it became, and it was much later in life for me. So, but it is never too late to start a practice like this, ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I too, I'm a subscriber, and love and recommend Mind Valley,
Mind Valley.
which it started with Vishen Lakhiani. And first, I really liked Vishen, and I started following him. And then I started learning his practice. And then I started looking into Jim Quick, who is teaching about memory, because I was a really slow reader. And then I started learning about Jim Quick. And then I found Mind Valley, which has many different meditation practices there, but also coaches that teaches how to learn about different practices like meditation. And one of the courses that I took there was on duality by Jeffrey Allen, which I again highly recommend because it talks about again duality meaning, the 3D world and the world of energy, which is the one that we don't see, where there's energy and frequency, and how to tap into the energy that we all have. And so he talks and teaches people about that space where you can go into, which, other people call it consciousness. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it the unified field. And so it's people use different words, but it all means the same thing, which is the energy at which we're all connected to the source. So people call it either source, God, or universe, but it's like this higher power. And so, and that is done actually through prayer as well, right? And so, prayer, meditation, affirmation, all of those are actually really good for you to be connected to a higher power. But is there any affirmations that you have come to learn that has either like changed the way that you saw things or changed your life in any way that you can share with us?
There's actually one set of affirmations that in the beginning of me learning affirmations was very instrumental in opening up the world of affirmations for me. I read it, and it hit me so viscerally, like I felt the whole thing, and I was like, I need to use this, and I would repeat it in the morning. I would repeat it at night. I would repeat it during the day. I have a sign. I still have it right here, next to my computer where it wasn't anything super detailed, but because it was so simple, I was able to take each line and envision something along with it. So I'll give you what it is, and then you tell me. So it is, I am wealthy. I feel healthy. I do deserve peace and happiness. I love being alive. I speak power into into the world. I see everything I've ever dreamed of. I know I am where I am meant to be. And I was like, what? I was like, I can't, because it was so simple. I could take
Mm.
every single line. When I said I am wealthy, what did that look like to me? I was able to to envision what that looked like. And that emotion that I felt with it carried with that line. Same thing with I feel healthy. Same thing with I deserve peace and happiness. Like there was an embodied feeling with each and every single line. And I was able to learn that I can use affirmations like that to create a life that was wildly different than what I had. So this was the beginning of me um, opening up into to affirmations. That was
Yeah,
the
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. That was a beautiful set of affirmations there. I think, like, and this is great that you started with your own affirmations. I want to go back to that a little bit
yeah,
because at some point, or at least when you first learn it, some of us does not feel any of that.
right,
And so when they start saying affirmations, for them, it's very hard to say things like, I am wealthy when they have no money on the bank account,
right,
or they feel not wealthy, or they're not at the level of wealthy that they'd like to be. And so at first, it feels different than when you are. So for some people, at first, it feels uncomfortable to
right,
say things that for them does not equal to their current reality
right,
versus some people who do practice or some people who do genuinely feel that they have millions in their bank account and they're actually wealthy or at least financially wealthy is what I'm saying here. Sometimes people feel wealthy in other ways in their lives, right?
right,
But there is a point in which many people don't feel comfortable saying those affirmations because they don't feel like it's the truth, versus when they do say those affirmations and they do feel it in their bones, like you were saying, where it's true to them.
yeah.
So, have you ever felt one and then transferred to the other? And how was that process for you?
Oh yeah. And it started with what I called it was a bridge affirmation, like or a bridge statement. It was something that I had to start talking myself it's almost like you're talking yourself into something, but it's more like where you're at that moment. Like you could start by saying, like, I'm learning to trust myself, or I'm becoming more confident every day. I'm becoming, more, trusting of myself, or I'm feeling, like once you have this bridge statement and you become comfortable with saying the words to yourself, whether it's out loud or internally. Once it starts to become more comfortable, then you could go to a fuller statement. You're just practicing, and this is a like exercise. You start slow and then you could, work your way up into something that's more embodied. And that's really what this is about. It's not just a matter of making one statement. You have to have an emotional attachment to it to some degree for you to feel it. You need to be able to feel the statement as well as say the statement.
Yeah. I really like that because some people don't know where to start,
Right.
right? I think therapy is so important in when people are not feeling great about it because I remember in therapy, it didn't feel right to me, or even therapeutic exercises that it wasn't really therapy, but I again, through all of the courses that I've taken, I have done some exercises with coaches where the exercise was to be completely honest with myself as to where I was feeling at the moment. For example, I don't feel loved or I feel unheard, unseen. And then going into that feeling and understanding why it's there.
Right.
And so starting with complete radical awareness and vulnerability and honesty. And when you go there and you discover that you have all of these like unresolved feelings about what you are and who you are at the moment, the beauty of actually going in is that you understand why that pain is there. Some practices ask you to tell you the color, the size of the pain, where it is in your body. And then you learn to embrace that, completely love that part of yourself, completely love whatever it's there, and letting it manifest on its own. And when you do that, it kind of feels like it expands and it turns into nothing because you allow yourself to feel the fear, you allow yourself to feel the pain, and then it kind of just does its thing and then it dissipates. And when you do these types of exercise, the power of it is you don't feel like saying that or it doesn't feel truth. And then all of a sudden it feels like maybe I could learn something different today. What I love about some of the practices that I've had, and even some of the coaching that I've had before, is coaches remind you that you are what you are today, currently now, is a lagging indicator. It's an indicator of what has happened in the past with you. It is not an indication of what will be. It's just what it has happened to you. That's why you are where you are right now. It doesn't mean anything about your future. Your
Right.
future can start literally today, right now. And so I think the affirmations help you kind of point your location, where you are right now. Because when you say something like, I am wealthy, but you don't feel it in your bone or you don't feel like it's true, you have to acknowledge that and work with that first
Right.
to really understand where this is coming from. But one thing that I learned with Marisa Peers, which is also a coach that I learned through Mind Valley. This is not a paying ad, by the way. But if
Right. Right.
but Marisa Peers is an extremely exceptional coach, and she does RTT, so she does the therapy as well. But she talks about affirmations because she talks about how affirmations teaches you and trains your brain to accept things. And I remember at some point in my life saying affirmation and not feeling it, or saying
Right.
the affirmation and feeling it in the moment that I'm saying it. But then 20 minutes later, I'm driving. Like, for example, I'm saying that, like I'm patient. And then 20 minutes later, I'm driving on traffic and I'm anything but patient. But in the moment that I'm saying, it feels really good and it sounds right and it feels like it's me. And then most of the day, it's not because I go back to my traditional world, my everyday life. And so it doesn't feel true. And I remember when I learned about affirmations, battling with this concept. Am I really telling myself the truth? Which one is it? Like, am I lying to myself? And what I learned from Marisa Pierce is that no, I'm not. And if I have to lie to myself, let it be to love myself, you
I love
know? So
that. Yeah.
I love that, because she was saying, you're not lying to yourself. You are teaching your nervous system to accept what you deserve
Yeah.
because you are not taught what you deserve, but you want to accept what you deserve. And so you have to train your body to deserve it. And so
Yes.
maybe at first, it's not going to feel like it's true.
No.
Maybe when you say it at first, it's going to feel like you're cheating, you're a fraud, it's not true. But you're just letting your brain and your body know that that's an option. And the more you practice saying what it is that you want to say, I deserve love, I deserve wealth, I am wealthy, I am available, I am prosperous, I do deserve well, health, prosperity, abundance. It's really you training your body and your nervous system that that's also an option and that's not, and that's okay. And one thing that I learned with Bob Proctor teaches, um, Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. He rewrote and taught that practice. He passed away a few years ago, which I was very sad about, but taught me a lot as well because one practice I learned from him was I am grateful now that he asks people to write that. Like, I am happy and grateful now that and then you write something that you want it to happen in the future.
Yeah.
So if you're not an author now, but you want to be an author later, you write it in present tense and you say, I'm happy and grateful now that I'm an author and now that I'm a best-selling author and I've sold multiple books and tomorrow is my signing. Tomorrow's
Yeah.
my book signing, because you're envisioning. And so
That's
affirmations,
the key. It's the envisioning because you said it quite a bit of a mouthful. Totally. But yeah, that's the whole key to it. It's not a matter of saying the word, and that's what I'm saying. Like when I say wealthy, what does wealthy look to me? It may be different for you. So it isn't what the world's version of it. What is your version of wealthy? What is your version of healthy? What is your version of peace and happiness? What is that version look like to you? So when you're actually saying those affirmations, and even being in the state of being grateful in that statement, when you're saying, I am grateful for whatever that is, you feel grateful, actually feel that gratefulness. That is where the power of the affirmations come from, is because you can actually envision that thing, like you had said with author. If you want to be an author, you're envisioning in your head the emotions and the feelings that you're feeling about being an author and how exciting it is that that book is coming out and that you are going to be going on book tours and stuff like that. You can envision yourself doing those things. And if it has enough of a resonance and power, it is something that you can start to embody, and that embodiment is huge. That's where the affirmations gain power. But it starts with you starting to say those things and retraining your brain to to feel that way, to act that way, to move that way. Whereas before, whether it be a negative line of thinking or, look, here's the thing. We everyone does affirmations, everyone. Most of us, though, say it in a negative way. I'm too tired. I'm exhausted. Any I am statement that we have is a part of an affirmation, and we do that in our life anyway. So why not switch those to something that's a little different? That's the whole thing with affirmations for me, was that I had to retrain myself to say the things that I wanted to see in my life and embody what it is to do that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and it's good to embody that as well, right?
Yeah,
It's the part that you were saying here. So I think there are different ways, and I love the fact that you also mentioned how we're always affirming something. You either affirming something that is happening right now based on your older belief or your limiting belief,
right.
or you're affirming something that you want to be,
Yeah,
which is more of the practice of Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is if you're able to affirm anything at all, why not to train your brain to affirm the things that you want to be versus what's happening right now? And so that was what his practice is. In my practice, when I'm with my clients, I always end our conversations with what are some of the things that you can tell yourself now that you've learned a different perspective? And so they're able to create three affirmations for themselves in the spot based on what they learned that day.
yeah,
And I think that's very powerful because sometimes we already learned things about ourselves. We knew things about ourselves, but we don't think that we do.
right.
Sometimes we think we are at one place and we're not. We're much more advanced than where we think we are. We don't give ourselves the recognition that we deserve sometimes. And so having a place and a space, a safe space to realize that together. I used to think this way, but the truth is now I don't think this anymore. I used to be, I used to feel like I was unseen and unheard, but the truth is I am heard and I am deserving of people listening to me. I have something to say and I'm worthy of attention. I am worthy of what's happening here. And so they kind of like, as they learn from themselves, they also learn to praise themselves. And that's also a type of affirmation. So, um, what are some other affirmations that you feel like has been helpful for you, in the past few days, for example? Or is that just the affirmation you use every day?
Oh no, no. Like I have many. And it really just depends on where I'm at. Um, Bigger ones like, I flow with the universe and experience miracles daily, is a good one that I use. Um, but generally when I'm starting my day, it always starts with my great gratefulness statements, so I'll start there and then um just sitting with it and understanding where you are in the current moment, but also knowing that you're on this beautiful journey and being open to all the experiences that come every single day. It may be small but it could be very, very large, but being open to everything. So I'm a magnet for indescribable wealth and good fortune. I'm available for outrageously wonderful things to come my way today and always. Like there's so many different ones that I can use, but ultimately, affirmations are really only going to work well if it's aligned with your values, right? If you repeat them constantly, if they're paired with action. So it
So,
isn't just enough to say the words. You have to start, like we are talking about, embodying those things that you want to do. So if you're saying I am healthy, or I feel healthy, and you're downing, 2 pints of ice cream, those aren't aligned actions to what it is that you're saying. There has to be an aligned action to the things that you are are embodying and believing in. So,
mm, yeah, tell me more about that. So, what does that mean? So, we're talking about affirmations, you're talking about manifestation. So, you manifest your affirmations when it's paired with action, right? That's more manifestation. You're going to manifest health if you affirm health and then you act like someone who is affirming health. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you could use that in manifestation as well. But I think that it is, if you're talking about it from a brain, so you have your mind, your body, your spirit, all that stuff. So in your affirmation, that's a mind spirit thing. And then the body piece of it has to be aligned as well. So this isn't necessarily just a manifestation piece. This is, if you want something, the reason why you're saying these affirmation is because you want to embody that thing or that emotion or that feeling. And by staying consistent with it and having those paired actions will strengthen the affirmation is what I'm saying. It'll make it more concrete. You actually are feeling those things. You're now embodying it wholly, is what
Yeah.
I mean.
That's great. Yeah, that thank you for that explanation because I think it's necessary, right? Because there's a difference. So affirmation is really just the saying of it, right? Like you're really training your body. You're
Yeah.
training your brain to
Your
believe
brain.
something,
Right.
right? And when you train your brain to believe something, sometimes you won't believe it because the action is different than the reality,
Right.
right? So, well, or the action is different than the belief. But sometimes, affirmations, they don't feel true because it's like you said, the action does not match what you're saying. And so it feels untrue. What is also true is sometimes an affirmation won't feel honest because your desire is different than your belief,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, you can desire freedom and you can
Mm.
say, I am free. I am free to choose. I am free. But your belief is in order to perform, in order to be successful, I need to perform. In order to be successful, I need to work at a 9 to 5.
Right.
And
Right.
that's not freedom, right? And so sometimes our beliefs are competing with our desire.
Right.
And sometimes people cannot see the two, but they desire, right? They desire connection with someone, but they say, if I open myself up, they're going to use it against me. And so you don't open, but you want connection, but you don't want to open up.
Right.
And so you don't connect.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a desire, but there's a false belief that comes with that desire. And so, in order for you to have a desire that feels true, the belief must be aligned to the desire.
Right. And it needs to be emotionally resonant as well. So you have to be emotionally connected to it in a way that one, you believe it, right? It's something that you believe, and then it's something that you can pair with an action. Even if it's a small action, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. It just has to, you have to start training. There's the body, there's the mind, there's the spirit, the whole thing needs to be there. Now, what I'd like to say also with this is that affirmations really are not supposed to bypass real feelings. And you had mentioned something in there where you seek what you're really feeling through affirmations. If you're feeling that it's not aligned in that statement, you have to dig in as to why it's not aligned. You can't ignore, at least you shouldn't ignore any underlying wounds or just really it turning into some like performative positivity. You don't want this to be a performative thing. You want to embody it on all levels as you move forward with it. This is a very huge thing to this because this is where you're saying maybe it feels like a lie, right?
Yeah.
So, in trying to not do affirmations to try to pretend, this isn't a pretend thing. You are trying to just retrain. You know that it's possible. You know that the possibility is there. The possibility is there to be healthy, wealthy, to have freedom, to whatever it is that you're putting within your affirmations. And you can actually emotionally attach to it, which is the mind piece, and then it's now setting those actionable steps afterwards. So now all everything is synced. And now you could use those as a an affirmation. It's a chant. It is your way of walking. It becomes your way of moving. And
Yeah,
that's
I
huge.
love that. And you're right. There are two types, and let's separate them just more clearly. So there is affirmations that we completely believe and we are already acting upon that feels easy for us to say.
Sure.
Right? And then there are affirmations that feels completely foreign to our body,
Right.
that we feel like it's not true.
Right.
I believe, and this is personal, based on all of the coaches that I have heard, is that both of them are actually good for you. It's good to say affirmations that are already aligned to your actions, and it's good to say affirmations that are not aligned yet with your
Right.
actions. And the reason, and I didn't know this until very recently, the reason why it's good to say affirmations that are not yet aligned to your actions is because you're training your brain of possibilities. So even if it feels like a fraud, it's not like you're trying to cheat your body because your body knows that it currently it's not happening, but you're trying to train your brain that that's actually a possibility, that that's not
Right.
completely foreign.
Right.
And so it's okay to say affirmations even when it doesn't feel true because you're training your brain. It doesn't feel true right now, but just allow yourself to be in that presence in this moment because one day when it does happen, it's going to feel normal because you have already trained your brain that that is a possibility. It's not completely foreign.
Right.
And so it's very, when it's something is very scary, like if somebody always dreamed of moving to Iceland, maybe they want to move to Iceland, but they're very scared. And so to say, I deserve to live in Iceland, I love Iceland, it doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean, oh, it's totally against my nervous system right now. My nervous system doesn't accept as truth, which is okay. But practicing that every day
Yes.
is
Yes.
going to create familiarity.
Right.
And something is completely unknown. Well, now it's not that unknown. Now feels okay. And for me, for example, when I was saying things like I am wealthy, at first it felt very unfamiliar to me.
Right.
What is wealth to me?
Right.
And so it felt very unfamiliar. But the moment that I learned that it's a practice that is just allowing you to become familiar with, you're just allowing your brain to think, but what if this is your normal? What if that becomes your normal tomorrow? What if you find money tomorrow? What if you win the lottery tomorrow? What if, things change? It won't feel familiar because you've been training your brain to accept this possibility, making the unknown known, making the
Yeah.
complete unfamiliar into something that is familiar. So, just to clarify, yes, you can say both affirmations, but one is doing a confirmation, the other one is doing a training in your brain. And those
It's
are
an
totally,
identity rehearsal.
yes.
You're rehearsing what it is that you want afterwards. So, yeah, I like to frame it that way. Yeah. I mean, affirmations are really an identity rehearsal. You actually, when you're saying it, it is something that you would want to have. You're not saying something wildly not, something that you don't want, but you're taking something that you want to turn into a part of yourself, an identity, and you just rehearse those things in your brain. And this is where it starts, so you get used to it. Your brain is trained now. And that is, a huge thing. Yeah, it's an identity. It's an identity
I love
rehearsal.
that. It is an identity rehearsal. And I love how you framed that as well, because I think that's when an affirmation is also the precursor to action.
Hmm.
Let me explain. So when you start saying, I am healthy, but then you go and you eat an entire pint of ice cream or two or three, right?
Yes.
At first, you're like, wow, I'm a fraud. Like I'm saying I'm wealthy and then I'm doing all of this. And then the next day you say it again. I'm wealthy. I mean, I'm healthy. I am healthy. I deserve wealth. I am so well. I'm so healthy. And then you wake up from that visualization and then you open the ice cream and you go, I keep on saying that I'm healthy, but I'm doing something that doesn't feel healthy.
Right.
What if I don't do this today? So because you keep on telling yourself that you want a different identity, that's actually also going to propel you to make changes to your actions
Yeah.
because saying one thing, but you're acting a different way. And so the more you say it, the
Yeah.
more your brain is going to start going, but wait a minute, is it one or is it the other? And so now you have to choose. Do you want to continue to want this identity or do you want to continue to eat the ice cream? And so
Right.
that is what is going to change there. It's going to be the precursor to your choices in life.
Yeah. So technically it's like the words like plant the seed, right? And the behavior waters it. So this is becoming, part of a bigger thing. You're saying I want to be healthy and you eating ice cream, or I want to be healthy and I want to have my body is like an Adonis, or and you sit on the couch all day. So this is the words in itself is the beginning that opens the door to the actual behavior, and then it can grow from there. And this is that's I love that so much.
Yeah, I love affirmations because of that. And the reason
Yeah.
why I love Marisa Peer's affirmations is because he teaches at the very root, he teaches worthiness. She
Yeah.
talks a lot about, and she asks people to repeat it, scream it out loud. I am worthy. I am worthy of wealth. I am worthy of prosperity. I am
Yeah.
worthy of a beautiful, healthy body. I deserve to be healthy. I deserve to be disease free. I deserve love. I am worthy of love. And some people will say that and feel differently, feel like they don't deserve it. And so she works with worthiness, which is at the very root when somebody don't feel worthy enough to having things.
I know we spoke a little bit about the mantras piece of it. Um,
Mhm.
Within the mantras, where do you use it in your practice, or do you?
Mantras I only use when I'm doing my meditations in the morning with Deepak Chopra
Yeah.
because I don't know a lot of mantras. And so it's my way of focusing on my consciousness and nothing else is by focusing on whichever mantra that he teaches, just because I don't know a lot of mantras.
Yeah.
So when I practice with other people and they have a mantra, I use that. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for me. The way that I practice is I focus on black. I focus on nothing. And when I start deviating and going into my body or going into a thought, I go back to nothing. And the nothing is when I see black, when it's like literally nothing. And
Yeah.
then I may see colors. It's that area where you
Yeah.
kind of may see colors, but then there's nothing there. And so I try to focus on nothing. But if there are mantras that I can use, then I will use mantra to focus on the nothingness, to focus on just being in pure consciousness. How about you?
I use it more often than I use um, affirmations right now, as of late anyway, because I am just trying to get to center. I'm just trying to um, I'm trying to reduce my mental chatter. So this is where my beginning starts. Um, it really activates that parasympathetic nervous system by breathing, by coming to center, by going back to black, right? By just being calm and doing nothing. In that nothingness gets you connected, and that's where the beginning is. And then, yes, it goes into my meditation after that. But the mantras that I am am using is more of a, a hum, and it activates everything. Like I can feel the hum in my head. I could feel it in my throat. I could feel it down my whole body. And that is where I'm able to tap in. So I use mantras often, more often, in my meditation. How did you come up with your affirmations?
Mm. So many different ways. So by reading books, by doing the courses. So I did a course with Michael Beckwith, which was walking me through, being a victim or in victimhood through being a channeler and being in state of consciousness.
Yeah.
And I remember through the process, I learned to say affirmations. I learned to say affirmations again with Dr. Bob Proctor, where I would say, I'm happy and grateful now that I have a beautiful home, now that I purchased my car, and I can read a few actually.
Yeah.
Oh, August 5th, 2021. I am so happy and grateful now that I moved into my house, and I absolutely love everything that we created. I am happy with the choices I made for the bathrooms, the kitchen, and the floor. I am so happy and grateful now that I have established a friendship with everyone at work and feel ready to move on. I am so happy and grateful now that I finally found the job of my dream. I feel like a part of a family and I'm ready to learn about leadership and management. I get a good pay and I have wonderful family insurance. I am happy and grateful now that I am exercising. It feels great to meditate again. My mind and body feel happy. I am finally getting really good sleep. I am happy and grateful now that I provide Daisy, my daughter, a routine that she loves and feels happy. The meal and uniform prep were a great idea. It's an easy routine and everybody appreciates. I am happy and grateful now that I bought my Range Rover Sport. Joe and I had such a wonderful time car shopping, and now we have exactly what we want. The seats are comfortable and the driving view is amazing. I am happy and grateful now that I am closer to my parents. My routine to see them every Friday did not stop. I enjoy spending time with them and I enjoy spending time with me. And so this was written in 2021. I remember I got, a really good job, a year after at XLX's. Shout out to my older job. But, all of this and my Range Rover, I bought my Range Rover January 2024. And I wrote this in August 2021. So that's kind of funny how that happened. So it happened years later, right? My house, we actually bought a house. I think it was 2022, and we actually did the remodeling of the entire house, changed the floors and the bathrooms, and we're really happy with the renovations that we made in the house. But those were things that I wrote with my heart very open. It was after meditations with practices, and I love that I found this. But it's just some of the things that you can actually write, and sometimes you're not going to get it right away, but you're going to, at one point, like if you really truly believe it and you say it with your heart intention, right? With an open heart and with a mind that has an intention, that's when affirmation really gets aligned, is what we call
Yeah.
aligned, is the desire and the belief are all in alignment.
And that's good because what you did was you put it made it so powerful because one, you made it present tense, right? It was, I have a good job, I have this car, I have, right? It was believable to yourself, right? You believed that you could do it, and it was growth based, right? You were like a house, everything was just beautiful, right? And then you tied it to all of these values that you have, family, time together, like all of these beautiful things. And then you repeated it daily, right? Or you repeated it often, and then you had an emotion attached to it. How amazing is it going to be to have this house? How amazing are you going to feel when you have, all of those things? And you did pair it with the aligned action. So it was just a wonderful, powerful affirmation to have.
Yeah.
Let's, take these. So like for example, um, one of my values is integrity, right? And so when I come up with an affirmation associated with that, it's like I honor my word to myself, or
Mhm.
I honor my marriage. I honor, like I use those words because one, it is present tense, it's believable, it's tied to a value of mine, and it causes an emotion, and then it then becomes an aligned action for myself.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So here's some other statements, if I may.
Please,
This
yes, I
was
love these.
just, for example, last week. So Marisa Pierce calls her affirmations really statements of truth. And so these are the affirmations that she asked, people to say out loud. And I think as a coach, if you're a
Mhm.
coach and you're listening to this, I think you will be grateful, which she says, I am worthy of success. I am worthy of helping someone famous. I can feel fear and keep going. I am a leader. I am amazing. I am a winner. I am worthy of success. I am worthy of high paying clients. I am fully booked. I am busy. I am brilliant. I am incredible. I am in demand. I am spoken about in beautiful ways. I am a great coach. I am worthy of getting paid for my coaching services. I am worthy of a fortune. And so she asks you to like just keep saying things. And I think that's beautiful. The more that you embody or the more that you envision those things and you say things that maybe even it doesn't feel, like true now, nonetheless, these are statements of truth, who you are at. So these are just some affirmations that Marissa Pierce, uses as statements of truth. And
Yeah,
I think it's important for each of us to have our own affirmations and statements of truth. I think also even, for someone like me who believes in creating a future for yourself,
yeah,
I have a vision board. And so, just based on my vision board, looking at it, I can actually come up with my own affirmations how I deserve everything that I envision. I deserve this life that I'm creating. I am so worthy of the life that I'm creating. And I'm so grateful that all of this is happening through me and for me. So those are some of the things that people can actually learn and take with them so that they
absolutely.
can, yeah.
Listen, your internal dialogue is already repeating something, right? So you may as well start turning it to the positive and have it become that's what you end up talking about. It's powerful when you do that. It's so if you're already talking to yourself and you're talking to yourself negatively, switch it around. See what
Yeah.
happens. What's
Or
the
just
harm?
stop yourself, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, I remember, I don't know, I think like 6 years ago, I used to say mean things to myself
Yeah.
and I wouldn't even notice that I was saying it because it was just, I was so used to it. And then when I started taking all of these courses and learning about self-love and self-trust, I started, even when I would say it, almost like unconsciously because I was so used to it.
Yeah.
I would say it, and then right after I said it, I would be like, that's not nice. That's not true. I've been impulsive. I'm sorry. So you can actually start learning by just acknowledging that you're not saying nice things. It doesn't have to be completely different. When you are saying something like, I'm so stupid, you can say, no, you're not. Like, it's just a one-off.
Yeah.
No, like, that happens to everybody. Be nice, you know? And so I remember there was a phase that I was like, be nice, because I couldn't be nice, but I also didn't, I wasn't still in the phase where I had learned. And so I would just say, be nice, easy, be nice, because I wasn't there yet. And so
Right.
it doesn't matter which phase you're in. If you're in that phase where you're still hating yourself, just stop yourself from it, and then soon enough, if you keep on practicing, you will get there because you deserve it. It's your birthright.
Right.
Everybody deserves it. So,
I agree. What a wonderful topic today.
I know.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I think affirmations and mantras are great. If people have other mantras or affirmations of their own, please
Yeah,
share them in the chat. I would love to learn another practice or something else that people are
absolutely.
doing it. And if you have any questions about any practices that I have used or that Marina has used, reach out to us. We'd be happy to share that with you.
Definitely.
See you guys next week. Mwah. Love you, my friend.